My name is Emily Carter, and I was 27 years old when my father died. I was born with a mild physical disability that made walking difficult, so I always moved a little slower than everyone else. People often thought that meant I was weak. My father never did. He was a quiet man named Robert Carter, and he showed love in a way most people don't notice. He didn't talk much about feelings. Instead, he taught me how to think, how to calculate, and how to survive without depending on anyone. When I was 10, my mother passed away. After that, it was just me and my father for a while. Every Saturday, he would take me out in his old car and drive through different neighborhoods. We would stop in front of houses, and he would ask me, "What do you think this place is worth?" I would guess, and he would gently correct me. He taught me about property value, market trends, and how small details could change everything. I didn't fully understand it back then, but I understood one thing. He was preparing me for something. When I turned 12, my father remarried. Her name was Linda, and she had a daughter named Sophie, who was younger than me. At first, Linda was kind, or at least she acted kind. But slowly, things began to change. My room was given to Sophie, and I was moved into a smaller room near the garage. Family dinners no longer included me properly. There were always 3 plates at the table, but mine was never set unless I did it myself. Over time, even family photos stopped including me. It was like I was fading from my own home. My father saw it, I think. But he rarely said anything. Instead, he started doing something else. When I was 16, he took me to his office and showed me an account in my name. It wasn't a huge amount of money, but it was a beginning. "This is yours," he said. "And you will grow it. Always learn to manage your own money." From that day on, he quietly began building something for me. Small investments, shares in properties, and eventually a stake in a commercial building downtown. He never made a big announcement about it. He just did it, step by step, over many years. I left home at 18 for college. I didn't argue or create drama. I just left. My father and I stayed in touch through short weekly calls. We didn't talk about emotions, we talked about numbers. Investments, returns, growth. That was our language, and it worked for us. Years passed. I studied hard, worked hard, and slowly expanded everything my father had started. By the time I was in my late 20s, I had built a stable and successful life. But back at home, nothing had changed. Linda still treated me like I didn't belong. Then my father got sick. His heart was failing. I tried to visit, but Linda always had a reason to stop me. "He needs rest," she would say. "No visitors." She told people I was too busy to come. That I didn't care. None of it was true, but I couldn't get past her. The day he died, I didn't even hear it from my family. A hospital nurse called me. I drove for hours to get there, but by the time I arrived, everything was already decided. That same night, Linda changed the locks. She stood in the hallway and told me, "This is my house now. You should leave." I stood there for a moment, holding my bag, and then I walked out without saying a word. A few days later, we gathered at a lawyer's office for the will reading. Linda sat confidently, already acting like everything belonged to her. The lawyer began reading. The house would go to Linda. Some savings too. Sophie would get a small amount. Linda looked satisfied. Then the lawyer paused and said something that changed everything. He explained that most of my father's wealth was not part of the will because it had already been transferred years ago, legally and completely, into my name. The room went silent. My lawyer presented the documents. Properties. Investments. A commercial building. Everything had been transferred over nearly 2 decades. The total value was more than anyone in that room had imagined. Linda's face changed. Shock, anger, disbelief, it was all there. She looked at me and said, "You knew?" I looked back at her calmly and said, you asked me to leave my home the night my father died. You don't get to question what I knew. Then one more thing came out. Linda had withdrawn a large amount of money from my father's account after his death using a legal document that was no longer valid. She was forced to return it. In that moment, everything she had built, her control, her image, collapsed. I didn't argue. I didn't demand anything from her. I simply stood up and said, I don't need the house. I don't need anything from this place. And I walked away. I never went back. Months later, I moved into my own apartment overlooking a park. It wasn't extravagant, but it was peaceful. I started my own financial consulting business, using everything my father had taught me. On my desk, I kept one thing from the past, a small, old calculator he had given me when I was 16. It still worked. Sometimes, I would sit there and think about him. About those quiet Saturdays. About the lessons hidden inside simple questions. He never said I love you in big emotional ways. But he made sure I would never depend on anyone who didn't value me. And in the end, that was his greatest gift. Moral lesson. True strength doesn't come from loud words or visible power, it comes from knowledge, patience, and quiet preparation. Advice. Never depend fully on people who don't respect you. Learn financial skills, they protect your future. Don't underestimate yourself, even if others do. Sometimes the best response is silence followed by success. Reflection, Isla. Instead of choosing revenge, Emily chose dignity. She didn't destroy others, she simply walked away stronger. That is real growth. Final question. If you were in Emily's place, would you reveal everything earlier, or stay silent and let the truth come out at the right time?